Welcome back to New Day and to our business segment. And this morning we are looking at Ghana as a middle income economy and the implications of this. And joining Amma and myself in the studio, we have Mr. Collins Appiah, who is an economist and also an asset manager from NDK. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Okay, so judging from the video we just saw there, Ghana's attained middle income status. We are all very happy. It's all well and good. But recently, the governor of the central bank has said that our being classified as a middle income country is doing more harm than good to the economy. What is your take on that?
I think from the speech maybe made by the central governor, the central bank governor, Mr. Wampa, is in relation to the fiscal space, and attaining yourself or going to be a middle income means that more or less in quotes you are now richer than what probably you used to be, and therefore in our local language we would say that if what's one warrior, then you should buy your own food.
Meaning that it would affect a lot of the foreign aid.
So now, because the foreign aid is not coming, we are more or less struggling to, make some of the expenses that we normally, would have gotten from them to, do on our economy. And that's where I think he was making the point that it's actually impacting, because now the government has to find its own strategy to get a lot of money from the system or maybe from outside. Normally, when you talk of implication of moving from one class of or description of an economy to another level, let's say from lower level to middle or developed, then more or less it just suggests that people within the economy are more or less becoming richer almost on daily basis. But I think our situation, that theory actually has to be looked at again, because when you look at our side, you could see that the development, and as I said, because it was coming from the circle service, they were looking at people who are doing business in Ghana. Yes, we are doing business in Ghana, but how many of them really contribute to the pocket of the Ghanaian, individual? Most of them are foreign direct investment that are coming, because they will capture those as still gross domestic product in our system. You might think that overall, but as I said, macroeconomists will also tell you that we are looking at the macro and not the micro. So though on the aggregate, we've become richer compared to what we used to be, and therefore the people will assess us as such. If you get to that level, then you, as I said, the serious implication is that foreigners will not, or your donors will not be giving you the free money that they have been giving you, and therefore you have to find your own strategy to go and look for money.
So how dire is the situation? Because at the moment, foreign aid accounts for about 40% of our budget. So if we are missing some of this, then what do we have to do to make up for it?
That's why I think now there's so much call that we should look at the revenue generation in our economy. And one, we've also had a challenge of the public sector almost all the time because of political gains. Government over the years want to increase that. At the moment, because of that status that we've gotten, you should know that these foreign donors will not be coming as it used to. And therefore, why do you even go ahead and implement fiscal policy that will affect your expenditure? If you're able to contain your expenditure, then you'll be able to manage even the small revenue that you are getting from within. And therefore, I think for some time now, we have been talking about the fact that the government should look at the expenditure level. Like the single spine that we are embarking on now, it's a serious policy that I think that the economy, without those foreigners, foreign direct investment, or the money that we are getting from donors, if they are not in, we will not be able to implement it as we want to. And that also goes to affect even the infrastructure that we want to do. And therefore, in terms of expenditure, you have a serious issue from that angle.
Okay, speaking about the macroeconomic structure, there are views that currently we are facing significant macroeconomic challenges due to our fiscal and our current account deficits being very high. How true is it?
It's still the same point that we are raising, that now, because maybe if I will take it from this angle where we've attained a middle class income, the money that we used to get from our foreign donors are not coming. Now you are forced to finance some of your promises that you made through that angle. You understand? And therefore, if that money is not coming, how do we get money to finance this thing? If the money is not coming, you have a problem of your revenue that you are collecting based on the expenditure that through your budget you've estimated that you want to embark on. You are not able to meet that, and even with that, coupled with some measures that have also come into place from the government side in terms of like the central bank measure that they brought, that caused the panic on the foreign exchange market. It's now more or less affecting other macro. And for me, I all the time say that if you're not able to stability, that's why economists all the time will tell you that stability is the key thing. If you're not able to manage your stability as expected, there's so much implication or indirect effect on other macro variables that you might be going to. I even strongly believe that because of this crisis that we have in the foreign exchange, that's why even our stock exchange is also not even performing this year, because even having the pension money from the pension regulatory authority for fund managers to invest in, I was actually expecting that this year should also continue to be a boom year for the stock market. But because most of the people who play on the stock market are foreigners, and I mean, if I would take a depreciation of almost about 30 to 40, why should I come and invest on your market? And that has a key implication on that. Now, all of us have been talking about the fact that the economy, the structural economy is not really in our favor, because almost everything that we consume here is imported. If everything that we consume here is imported, that's why the central bank has to give the confidence in terms of the exchange rate stability policy that they implement. You don't come and more or less create a panic for people, because at the end of the day, when you create that panic, the economic agent, the people within the economy, the impact they will have on you might not be able to absorb it. And that's why I think even last week, I think they came back again that they've come to reverse some of this policy that they brought, because exactly they were more or less responding to speculation, fluctuation, than addressing the exchange rate crisis that we have. And the exchange rate crisis that we have, all of us admit the fact that it's because most of the goods and services that we consume in Ghana are imported. And if you are importing, you need somebody's currency to go and do that importing. Until we start consuming our local, thing that, or we start producing locally, that problem will continue to be there. But as it continues to be there, I still expect the central government to at least, that's why we have the reserve, the 3 months reserve cover that we have. That was sort of a measure that was giving Ghanaian confidence that in case of even any crisis, the central bank have got what it takes, at least for the next 3 months, to still sustain the exchange rate as to where we expect it to be. But I think recent, situation that has happened to us show that thing that they have probably is not effective, or it wasn't realistic.
All right, Collins, I want to sort of take it back. What were some of the factors that were, indicators in the first place that put Ghana at middle income?
For me, I think before we were like, in 2010, they were calculating the GDP based on, in economy, we have we call a basket, a couple of basket, like a certain item. Mm-hmm. Okay, and later we realized that I think the item that we were using, especially even with the inflation, was not broad enough to capture what we term as gross domestic product. Mm-hmm. So they came out with a new sort of calculation to include more items. And at that time too, I realized there was so much, what we call helping the foreigners, or telling the foreigners to come and invest with us. So we had more of the direct investment coming in. And the direct investment that we're having, if you look at even the telcos, almost all of them were making so much, money on our system. They were growing the business, and when you bring all of them probably together, you realize that how much money you have at the moment, based on the new calculation, might be different from what you had. So I think it was something that we're not doing at first, and from 2010 thereabout, we started including those things in, and we realized that no, what we expect to get. And I don't think the other time when you calculate that GDP, you divide it by the number of population, that gives you the per capita. So we realize that the per capita has gone up as it used to be.
So let me ask, do you think, in your opinion, then that system they used, was it flawed based on what's happening now? I
wouldn't say it was fraud in a sense, because before that, that was, I think the time they adapted that measure, at any point in time, economic variables and things change. And therefore, you have to probably be current and be up to date to also adjust some of your things. But I think it kept us so long a time for adapting the new measure. That's why. But I wouldn't say it was a fraud. It was something that was working perfectly from the years in that area until we got to 2010, where we realized that no, I think now most of the things that we used to know have changed, and therefore we should even include this and that and that. So I wouldn't say it was fraud, actually.
Okay. What are some of the benefits that we stand to derive from being ranked as a middle-income economy?
I think in terms of benefit, maybe from individual point of view, I might think that it gives also the foreigners or our foreign partners that now Ghana is becoming richer. It's like treating the richer way of doing things. When you want to even give a loan, you are sure that the person have got what it takes to, because in a loan application, sometimes they will tell you that bankers want to give loan to somebody that they trust, that he has more money to pay,
right.
You know.
So it gives us some kind of prestige on the international
level. And even with that, if it hadn't been this macro challenge that we were having, I think it would have contributed to attracting a low interest rate from the international market. So that one, you have the muzzle to go out and, you know, borrow from the international market, that this is your capital, this is how much you are generating, and therefore you can, you know, pay them with a certain, and that one you have the chance at least to negotiate the rate that you want to attract from outside.
Is there anything we stand to lose as well from this ranking, especially with the current economic situation in the country?
I think for the adverse effect, as I said earlier, one of the serious implications is that, especially when the economy, most of the people down there, let me put it this way, the gap between the lower income and the middle income, more or less within the economy, is so wide that though on overall, because the rich, let's say you have like 5 rich guys that are making millions of cedis, and you have like 10 low guys who are not making anything at all. When you add all their income together, you might think that all of them are better off. That's the situation. You understand? You might think that all of them are better off, but because it's only few that are better off, you want to put a policy that more or less will affect everybody, and also try to. So now our challenge is for the government to, you know, close the gap between these two guys. And if you were to be going by, and now that the free money are not coming anymore, the government has to get a strategy to sort of pull the lower guys to or be closer to the rich guys who are making so much money.
Okay, well, you said putting policies in place to help bridge the gap. What sort of other things do you think can be done to help, what bridge that gap between the rich and the poor?
Now, I think maybe from policy stance, from the government side, ideally, employment is a key thing. What employment strategy have we got as a nation to let people get jobs? Now, if you look at how we have been running our system for some time, people want to just get to university and come and work for people. We don't. The entrepreneur, I think for some time, though it's increasing, but the entrepreneur spirit is still not in the youth. You understand? So how do we create employment for people who are graduating from the university? Only few guys who have done, like my boss, for instance, Mr. Okujan, who have created NDK, and you talk about Kusindu, who have created several businesses, and few others who are helping the private sector to get, and therefore graduate. And now almost on daily basis, you get so much, application from graduates want to come and do either attachment or service or get full employment. And I think the employment situation is, even if a person will develop, he needs to get some step, to start from. You understand? And because now the conscience more or less from people is, let me get education, train myself, and later, because even now, if you even get a good idea as an entrepreneur and you want to embark on, the step even to start with, and you can't start any business, without any small capital. People are not willing to give their capital to you, especially when you go to the banks. The kind of frustration that you go through to even attract a small loan from them is not encouraging enough to even boost the venture capital that we have. More or less also look at the top business ideas and they also calculating from the rate that they see from the business. They are not also in a sort of in a speed way to help these people or individual that are trying to even do something on their own. So I think the major challenge is for us to at least get some strategy of getting people from universities to get into employment. Immediately they finish, they should at least get into some employment. When they are able to accumulate some money, then they can start, even doing something on their own.
Now, according to the World Bank, low middle income economies have an average income of about $1,900 to $3,975. Is this true of Ghana?
I think at the moment the statistical service, I need to check from the statistical service. The last time I actually checked was around 500. But as now we are being classified as a middle. If that's the benchmark, then I think that's what we are exactly.
Okay, now also there are about 15 countries in Africa who have also been termed as middle income economies. Does that mean that in terms of development, we are on the same level with some of these countries? I mean, Nigeria, Namibia, Zambia.
It still boils down to which I think several economists have actually critiqued that kind of assessing economy, because the question is, you want to even compare ourselves to Nigeria. When you compare, let's say Nigeria and Ghana, I know by size in terms of population, Nigeria is far bigger than Ghana. Having that, is that there's the likelihood that Nigeria, income, because anytime you have more people, there's the likelihood of economic activities, and that's why China is still booming because of their population size, because people will still continue to struggle and live by way of living in.
So you're saying that there will by all means be a disparity in the level of economic development.
Exactly.
It won't be the same.
Exactly.
They are all on
the
same.
Yeah, exactly. But then when you take how much they are generating compared to their population, then we can classify. So maybe Nigeria can produce 2 or 4 times how much we are producing, but because their population is also big enough or more, there's the likelihood that our per capita income might be the same, and that's how it works.
Okay. You also mentioned earlier on about over-reliance on imports and goods and services and all of that. If we continue this way, will this in any way affect our current status as a middle-income country?
I think for me, that one has nothing to do with whether you are being classified. The income or the consumption pattern, more or less, has to do with how well you're able to manage your exchange crisis. And because the exchange crisis have so much impact on other economic activities, it's either likely to affect it directly or indirectly. Now, Ghana being most, consumable country when it comes to foreign, goods, is because one, we don't have the local expertise to produce what we want to consume. Exactly. Most of us have developed the foreign taste. Exactly. This suit, for instance, I think you hardly get a Ghanaian. They can sew actually, but the fabric and other things are not produced from here.
Okay. You still have to get it from
exactly. So if you have even a factory that is producing this fabric and we can get people to sew, I actually don't need foreign exchange, to go out there.
So are you saying then that even though we rely so much on imports, it won't, and we don't really indulge in using state purchasing power to indulge in homegrown products, it won't in any way affect our status?
No, it can affect the sector maybe in the middle or in the medium to long term. If I'll do the analysis for you. So now, as I was explaining, because we are importing more, we are not able to produce more, and we are not able to stabilize the exchange rate. The effect of it is that now people who are going to buy the goods will have the chance of increasing their product in Ghana. If they stand a chance of increasing their, so you see inflation going up. When prices of goods and services start going up, then people, all things being equal, they might not be having the necessary income to purchase those products unless they are necessity products, like the food thing that you eat and so on. So that will force some businesses to close down, because if they bring the goods from us. Let's say, for instance, a car dealer who is bringing cars from US to come and sell, and now because of exchange rate, he's not able to bring it more. He is forced to, and that is going to affect the GDP calculation, because now, if at first he was part of it, now he'll be out of it, and that will affect our middle income. So in a short run, you actually don't see that impact. But in a long run, if it continues and you are not able to stabilize that exchange rate market, it has that tendency to bring the per capita income down.
Okay. So revenue from oil and also exports from cocoa and gold and mining and other agricultural activities is what supported the economy for us to attain this status. How are we faring with these exports at the moment?
I think for our export, we've actually it's part of helping us to attain, because that is the only, not the only aspect, but one of the ways that you can actually get foreign currencies into your country, because then people are outside are also patronizing what we've got. But I think over the years, what we've still not been doing is to transform or add value to most of the export things that we have. Everything that we normally export are more or less the raw material, and the raw materials exactly put and come and sell, which that's something that all of us have been talking about, that now that problem that we call the structural problem need to be solved.
All right, Collins, let me just sort of throw a spanner in here. On Tuesday, I think earlier on this week, the United Nations resident coordinator actually stated the fact that, yes, Ghana is a middle-income country, but yet we're not a middle-income society. So based on that, is there any point us even being termed as middle-income if the society at large doesn't really reflect that?
That's why I said it's based on the yardstick that the economic people who use as what should classify as middle income status and middle, and that's the point I was making, that fine in terms of the mark or the aggregate or the overall, we have attained that level because now we are producing this amount of money, and based on our population, per capita income is this level, and that's classify you as a. But then when you come within to look at the macros, you see that there's so much disparity between the rich and the poor, and based on that you can say no. I think because maybe majority of them are still not rich enough, they shouldn't be classified as such.
Okay. Well, regardless of this new status that we have, we are still being termed or classified as a developing country or a developing economy. What does this mean? I think middle income, but we are still developing.
There are still economic terms to sort of describe economies. Though you used to be at a low level, you've moved to a middle. You are still there's still a level to go. Exactly. That's why we use the word developing, because you've not gotten to the peak of that trend yet where we are supposed to be.
How quickly can we migrate or integrate into the global economy from where we are now?
I think for integration, I can even say that we are so much perfectly integrated, and even with that, some of us actually don't support that concept. When you speak to the UK and those developed countries, they will tell you from their even economic textbook that open your market up, But at the end of the day, and that's why we are struggling now, because at the moment when you are developed, you develop through a strategy. If you don't get the strategy right, you would develop, and at the long run, you realize that you've developed. It's like you are trying to build a story building, and your foundation that you're trying to place wasn't right. You get to the top there, and you realize that no, I think my house that I have is not what I actually expect it to be. Now we say we are developing, opening almost all angles for people, foreigners here and there to just move it. We realize that the economy more or less have now been taken over by outsiders, and therefore even changing our policy to affect our own life becomes difficult.
Right, now finally, just wrap up, do you think that this newfound status is a practical, or it translates into practical and social development projects that can be felt by the ordinary Ghanaian, or is just a badge of honor that politicians just pull out just to say that we are middle income?
I think for me, the status, more or less, yes, we've attained it through economic theory. But when it comes to the individuals, most of us or most people have not gotten there yet. Feeling. I mean, for thousand over dollars per month, how many people live on that in a day? Which I mean, if you go to most companies, how much they are earning? I mean, you can. And looking at even the exchange rate now, I really don't think, and that's why I think that there should be a policy. Though you have attained the overall, there should be a policy to close that gap, to bring the people down here, to the middle, and therefore all of us will feel that status that we got.
Filter down
exactly.
All of us to feel it. Thank you so very much, Mr. Collins Appiah. Final words before we go. Anything you want to say?
Maybe what I would say is that I'm happy the way maybe Ghana is moving in terms of economic development.
You are?
Yes, I should, because I think when you compare, sometimes I think when you talk of economics, where we are now, when you even compare it to 20 years or even from Nkrumah time, where he was developing most of the infrastructure that we're having, the per GDP and let me even use the telecoms as an example. I was not having this mobile phone in those days. I was not having a car that maybe I'm riding from my house to my office in some of these days that we're talking about.
No, but the cost of fuel for you to drive your car will probably
the cost of fuel, economy all the time don't stand still. They move, and therefore if you compare what you are in terms of satisfaction, we have in economy we call utility, the satisfaction that you are deriving from most of the things that you are using is, and I think maybe we more or less stand the way of accusing the government, because when we compare ourselves to other people or other countries, yes, inflation is going at a rate we don't really expect. The interest rate where they are going, we actually don't really expect. But those are short-term, crisis that any economy has the thing, especially with developing countries. You can't escape that, and you learn from that, process to get to the. So when you get to that developed status, then you realize that you've gone through. UK and other people have gone through such processes before, and they have lived for 100 and over years. How old is Ghana? I mean, we are just, I think even the university that I attended is even older than Ghana. You understand? So I think it's a transition stage but we shouldn't. That's why I all the time want to tell the managers that if you create a panic and for people to lose confidence, then you are destroying almost everything that we've achieved from the old years to this time. And that's why I expect them to continue on. Fine, we are going through crisis, but I think we should still see, an optimistic view as a light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah.
Okay. A very big thank you this morning to Mr. Collins Appiah. He's an economist at NDK Asset Management, and we've been talking about Ghana as a middle-income country.